In the monastery, we are taught not to react to fire with fire, but to contain it with water. The outside world is full of chaos, but a true practitioner learns not every battle is worth fighting and not every noise deserves your attention. So how do you deal with toxic people without letting them poison your inner peace? You don't fight them. You master yourself. Let us now walk together through 5 Shaolin teachings that will help you deal with toxic people. Not with aggression, not with fear, but with wisdom. In the monastery, the very first lesson you are taught is not how to fight, but how to breathe. Not how to strike, but how to observe. Because the real enemy is never the person in front of you. It is the storm within you. A toxic person may say hurtful things, act in deceptive ways, or try to provoke your emotions, but they only succeed when you hand over your peace like a gift wrapped in reaction. Think for a moment. How many times have you felt the sharp sting of someone's words, not because they were true, but because you chose to carry them? This is what we must unlearn. The Shaolin path is not about escaping conflict. It is about transforming the way we meet it. To deal with toxic people, the first mastery is not over them. It is over yourself. Imagine someone throwing a hot coal at you. Instinct tells you to catch it, to throw it back. But in doing so, you burn your own hands. The wise response is not retaliation. The wise response is non-attachment. Let it fall. Let it burn out on the ground while you remain untouched. The toxic person expects a reaction. They feed on it. They want to see your anger. They want to witness your discomfort, your attention, your energy, even your confusion. It is the currency they trade in. But when you offer stillness instead of sparks, something powerful happens. You remove the fuel from their fire. They do not know what to do with your calmness because it reflects back something unfamiliar. Discipline, emotional sovereignty. Most people live reactively. A word triggers a wound and the ego jumps forward to defend itself. But in Shaolin, we are taught, the one who reacts first loses the battle within. Reaction is the chain that binds you to the other person's behavior. It says, you control how I feel. But when you can observe the trigger without becoming it, you are free. You reclaim your power from their hands. And this is not suppression, it is awareness. Suppression is closing your eyes to the problem. Awareness is opening your eyes so wide that no shadow can hide. Silence is not weakness, it is precision. When a monk stands in stillness while chaos erupts around him, it is not because he is numb. It is because he is anchored. Anchored in breast, anchored in principle, anchored in the understanding that not every comment requires a reply. Not every energy deserves a response. And so in the presence of toxicity, your first act is to come back to yourself. Return to your center. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Breathe deeply into your belly. Listen not to the noise, but to the silence underneath it. That silence is where your true power lives. You see, the moment you respond impulsively, you enter their reality. Their energy pulls you in like quicksand, and the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. But if you stand still, if you witness without attachment, you become untouchable. Like the moon reflecting light on a turbulent lake, you remain unchanged above the waves. This is not about being cold, it is about being conscious. Conscious of your energy, your direction, your peace. Because peace is not passive, it is active discipline. And discipline is not about controlling the outer world, it's about choosing who you become in the face of it. So the next time you face someone whose words are sharp, whose presence feels heavy, remember them. You are not obligated to match their vibration. You are not a mirror, you are a monk in training. Choose stillness over reaction. Choose breath over battle. Let them play their game alone while you protect the temple of your mind, because your energy no longer entertains their presence. But there is another layer to this path. When you have mastered the reaction, the question becomes, how close should you stand to that fire? And that brings us to the next principle in the Shaolin way. There is a wisdom in stepping back that many people misunderstand. They call it avoidance, they label it detachment, they see it as a sign of weakness. But in the Shaolin teachings, stepping back is often the first act of clarity. Not because you are afraid, but because you see clearly what no longer serves the harmony of your past. When we train in silence and stillness, it becomes apparent that not everyone is meant to walk with you. Not every voice deserves a place in your inner circle. Not every presence brings nourishment. Some bring confusion. Some drain your essence. And some simply serve a lesson and then must be released. Keeping them too close, too long is not strength. It is neglecting your own spiritual hygiene. Toxicity is not always loud. It is not always obvious. Sometimes it comes disguised as a friend, as a lover, as a colleague who means well, but your body knows, your spirit knows. When you leave a conversation feeling smaller, when your thoughts grow clouded after an interaction, when you start questioning your worth more often than you feel supported. That is not connection. That is corrosion. And the Shaolin path teaches to protect your energy is an act of deep compassion, not only for yourself, but for the one who is unknowingly spreading the poison. Because when you allow someone to continue harming you without consequence, you also prevent them from meeting the reflection of their actions. You shield them from accountability. In the West, people often confuse love with endurance. They believe that if you care, you must stay. You must tolerate, adapt, suffer quietly. But love without boundaries is not love, it is self-abandonment. True compassion has edges. Like the sword of a monk, it does not cut out of hatred, but out of necessity. You must know when your continued presence only prolongs the dysfunction. It is not cruel to walk away, it is wise. It is kind. Because staying in a space that constantly diminishes you is not spiritual. It is self-neglect. And no true path can be walked in chains. There are times when silence speaks louder than words. There are moments when your absence becomes the most honest answer. If someone's actions have made your presence feel heavy, then allow your distance to speak what your mouth no longer needs to say. Let it be clear. Not out of revenge, not out of ego, but out of alignment. Alignment with your values, alignment with your inner peace. We must understand, not every person is meant to be healed by your light. Some will misuse it, some will dim it, and some will simply not see it. That does not mean your light is any less powerful. It simply means their eyes are not yet open, and that is okay. You do not have to make them see. You just have to continue shining elsewhere. In Shaolin, we do not hate those who fall into darkness. We simply don't follow them into it. We bow in respect to the lesson they offered and we move on. Quietly, gracefully, and without malice. The world is vast, the journey is long, and to carry those who are unwilling to walk with clarity will only slow your pace. You are not a savior. You are a seeker, and sometimes the best way to honor a person's path is to leave them to walk it alone until they are ready to meet you again at a higher frequency. If they are meant to return, they will, and if not, let them go without resistance. Like leaves falling in autumn, some relationships are meant to drift away so new roots can grow. And this is where your deeper discipline begins. Not just in walking away, but in staying unmoved after you do. Because the world will test your distance. It will tempt you to re-engage, to explain, to defend your silence. But the Shaolin path does not argue. It does not chase, it moves with purpose. And so must you. For the real work begins when you no longer chase closure, when your peace no longer depends on another's understanding. When you realize that creating space is not an end, but a powerful beginning. And from that still, strong distance, you now prepare to take a new stance, not by retreating further, but by becoming unshakable. And this brings us to the next teaching. In the heart of the mountains where the monastery rests, there is a silence that cannot be disturbed, not by storms, not by shouting winds, not even by the roar of thunder. That silence is not emptiness, it is strength, it is stillness earned through presence. And that is what a Shaolin practitioner learns to become. Not the wind that moves, but the mountain that remains. Toxic people will come and go like passing tempests. One moment calm, the next aggressive, unstable, unpredictable. And if you live like the wind, constantly adjusting to every shift, you will never find your center. But if you train yourself to become the mountain, rooted, observant, unshaken, you begin to master not only the situation but yourself. A mountain does not react. It does not raise its voice. It does not run from storms. It simply stands, enduring, immovable, dignified. This is what we are called to cultivate when faced with toxic people, because when someone around you operates in chaos, it is very easy to get pulled into their emotional weather. They are angry, so you raise your voice. They lie, so you start doubting yourself. They manipulate, so you retaliate. And just like that, your inner state becomes a reflection of their storm. But the Shaolin path is not about mirroring the behavior of others. It is about embodying a deeper presence that does not flinch in the face of instability. The mountain teaches us that strength is not in motion, it is in rootedness. You see, people who thrive on conflict are uncomfortable around stillness. When they cannot provoke a reaction, they begin to lose their hold. The one who stays still in the presence of dysfunction becomes a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable for those not ready to see themselves. But that discomfort is their own path, not yours to carry. You must not shrink or bend to make others feel comfortable with their imbalance. You must remain tall, silent, still, because the one who remains calm under pressure, it becomes a reminder of what the other has not yet mastered. And this reminder, your silence, your unwavering energy, can sometimes be the most powerful teaching. It is important to understand that becoming the mountain does not mean becoming indifferent. It means becoming discerning. You feel everything, but you do not respond to everything. You observe the attack, but you do not engage the attacker. You sense the manipulation, but you do not feed it. This is a higher form of intelligence, a calm clarity that comes from knowing that your energy is sacred and must not be thrown into every battle you are invited to. We do not train in the monastery to overpower others. We train to overpower the temptation to lose ourselves. Every time you choose stillness over reaction, you reinforce the roots of your inner mountain. And those roots grow deeper with every moment of mindfulness, every breath that chooses presence over pride. There will be moments when your stillness is misunderstood. People will say you are passive, emotionless, disconnected. Let them. What they cannot yet see is that your stillness is not absence. It is discipline. The discipline to choose peace over drama, to choose focus over chaos, to choose the long path of mastery over the short thrill of reaction. When a mountain is struck by lightning, it does not complain. It absorbs, it withstands, and it remains. You too must become like this. Not numb but neutral. Not withdrawn but wise. Not cold but clear. This is not easy. It requires daily cultivation. The kind of inner work that does not get applause but builds an unshakable core. And when you embody this presence, this calm, unbothered awareness, something subtle happens. The toxic person either transforms or withdraws. Your energy no longer matches theirs, and so the cord is broken. You stop playing the game they have mastered. And when they can no longer move you, they are left only with their own reflection. This is how your peace becomes your power, not by dominating, but by enduring. Not by attacking, but by remaining. And so, when the winds of manipulation and conflict try to shake you, remember your training. Breathe deep, stand tall, speak less, and remain still like the mountain. But even the mountain must choose its landscape carefully. It must not stand in places where the earth is eroding underneath. And that brings us to the next teaching, one that will show you why it is not enough to remain still. You must also remain pure. You must not absorb their poison. You must not mirror their darkness. In every conflict there is an invisible choice, a crossroads that appears not on the outside, but deep within the space between action and reaction. That space is where your power lives. When someone insults you, disrespects you, mocks you, or betrays your trust, your instinct may scream to respond in kind, to throw their darkness back at them with sharper words, colder silence, harsher behavior. But the Shaolin path warns against this, because in mirroring their darkness, you begin to lose your light. And the real danger of toxicity is not just what it does to your emotions, it is what it invites you to become in response. That subtle shift in your character, that unconscious descent to meet someone at their lower frequency, that is the true poison. A snake does not become a lion by striking harder. A wise monk does not become enlightened by fighting fools. You do not raise your vibration by matching the energy of those who have none. The great trap of life is thinking that retaliation brings justice, but in reality, it only brings more chaos. You may win the argument, but you lose your peace. You may deliver the clever insult, but your heart feels heavy. You may create the illusion of strength, but your spirit begins to drift. And so, the teaching is simple yet severe. Do not become what you despise. It is a lesson that requires deep internal mastery. Because when someone throws negatively at you, it takes great strength not to catch it and hurl it back. In Shaolin training, we spend countless hours not just perfecting the movement of the body, but the restraint of the mind. Not every energy deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your dignity. When someone is operating from pain, insecurity, or ego, their goal is not connection, it is control. And when you respond emotionally, you hand them exactly what they crave, influence over your state of being. But when you choose neutrality, not indifference, but sacred detachment, you interrupt the cycle. Their anger hits an inner wall and dissolves. Their manipulation falls into silence. Their drama finds no dance partner. This is not about being morally superior. It is about being spiritually awake. It is easy to mistake passivity for peace, but true peace is active. It is a decision made in real time. It is the courage to walk away from an unnecessary battle, the humility to stay quiet when the ego wants to roar, and the strength to hold your center when everything around you is pulling you outward. When someone disrespects you, the Shaolin response is not to mirror the disrespect, it is to return to your discipline. You do not need to match energy, you need to maintain integrity. Every time you do, you grow in presence, and presence is power that speaks without words. And what happens when you don't mirror their energy? You become unpredictable. They cannot control you, cannot provoke you, cannot manipulate your inner weather. You become a clear lake, reflecting what is true, but never echoing what is false. And over time, that presence begins to affect others. Your calmness becomes contagious. Your restraint becomes a teaching. Without preaching a single word, your very existence begins to remind others of what they have forgotten within themselves. That is the beauty of not mirroring darkness. You become the contrast that exposes it. And yet, it is not always easy, because there are days when their actions cut deep, when their words echo louder than your breath, when silence feels like surrender. But this is why your path is sacred. It is not walked by the many. The Shaolin way is not for those who want quick victories. It is for those who seek lasting transformation. Every time you choose not to retaliate, you sharpen the blade of your awareness. Every time you refuse to descend, you rise. And rising in spirit is far more difficult and far more powerful than winning the temporary satisfaction of reaction. But even stillness and purity are not enough if your pain remains stagnant. The final teaching reveals a profound truth, that all of this hardship, all of this toxicity can become your training ground. And every toxic encounter is not just a challenge, but a chance to rise into something greater. And that leads us to the final wisdom on this path: how to transform the poison into power. There is a profound teaching passed down through generations of Shaolin wisdom. Even poison, in the right hands, can become medicine. At first, this seems paradoxical. How can something harmful be of value? How can negativity, disrespect, betrayal, or manipulation be used to elevate rather than destroy? But the monk learns what most people overlook. The way we respond to adversity determines whether we break or break through. Toxic people do not only test your boundaries, they awaken parts of you that would have remained dormant without friction. Their presence invites your growth, not by their wisdom, but by their challenge. And if you are willing to see them not as enemies, but as hidden teachers, you will find that every painful encounter becomes a stepping stone toward mastery. Think of the way fire hardens steel. Without the heat, the blade would never gain its edge. Without the strike of the hammer, it would remain shapeless. In the same way, toxic people reveal where you still have work to do. They expose your triggers. They point directly to your unhealed wounds. They force you to confront your ego. And so the invitation is not to resist their presence with bitterness, but to observe what rises in you because of them. Are you impatient? Do you still seek validation? Are you easily provoked, quickly wounded, secretly afraid to be alone? These are not signs of weakness. They are areas ready for transformation. When you begin to see toxicity as a mirror rather than a weapon, everything changes. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is this revealing within me? And in that shift, power returns. Because now you are no longer a victim of their behavior, you are a student of your own evolution. You begin to respond with curiosity, not complaint. With observation, not judgment. Their manipulation teaches you how to spot subtle dishonesty. Their criticism teaches you to stand firm in your truth. Their betrayal teaches you the importance of self-trust. The more pain they bring, the more opportunities you have to alchemize that pain into wisdom. But this transformation only happens if you remain conscious. If you fall into blame, you miss the lesson. If you drown in resentment, you waste the energy that could have shaped your growth. In Shaolin, every obstacle is welcomed with a bow, not because it is pleasant, but because it is purposeful. When someone comes into your life carrying heavy energy, you must not carry it with them. But you can observe how it moves, how it affects you, and what it activates. Toxic people are not the source of your suffering, they are the trigger. The source lies within, and that is what makes this path so powerful. It puts your healing back into your own hands. The moment you stop trying to change them, and instead use the experience to refine yourself, you become unstoppable. Their negativity becomes your awareness. Their darkness sharpens your clarity. Their drama strengthens your discipline. Like the lotus that grows through mud, your spirit begins to rise not despite the adversity, but because of it. You are not here to carry their weight, but you are here to refine your posture under the weight they introduce. And when you can do that, when you can stay centered in chaos, calm in provocation, and focused in distraction, you become unshakable. You become what the Shaolin call the unmoved mover. Not because nothing touches you, but because everything that touches you is transformed into wisdom. This is not philosophy, this is practice. Real, daily, deliberate practice. The more you walk this path, the more you realize it is not about removing toxic people from your life. It is about removing their control over your state of being. And once that control is gone, they can no longer harm you. In fact, they begin to help you without even knowing it. But this level of transformation requires one final step, one final shift in understanding. After all the teachings, all the silence, all the distance, and all the inner work, what remains? What do you carry forward into the world? The Shaolin monk does not end with resistance, he ends with stillness. He does not rise in anger, but in peace. And this final reflection, this final state of being is what gives meaning to every lesson before it. And so we return to where we began, with the question, how do you deal with toxic people without letting them poison your inner peace? The answer, as the path has revealed, is not found in force, retaliation, or withdrawal alone, but in presence, clarity, and the unwavering decision to walk your own path with mindfulness. You do not have to silence them. You only have to stop giving them your inner state. You do not have to fight them. You only have to stop feeding the illusion that their energy must become yours. You have learned now to master your inner reaction, to create sacred distance, to become the mountain rather than the wind. You have remembered that mirroring someone's darkness dims your own light. And most beautifully, you've discovered how to alchemize even the harshest energy into fuel for self-growth. These are not just tools for dealing with difficult people, they are disciplines for building an unshakable life. And still, the teaching of the Shaolin way is simple. You are not here to change others, you are here to master yourself. In this you find peace, not because the world is quieter, but because you are. The storm continues, but you no longer get wet. The noise rises, but your mind remains like still water. So start today, not by arguing, not by overthinking, and not by trying to fix anyone else. Start by sitting still and seeing what remains, what is left when the noise fades. Who are you when no one else defines you? That silence, pure, calm, rooted, is where your true strength lives. Thank you for walking this journey with me. May you carry these teachings like a lantern through the darker corners of life. Stay mindful, stay strong, and above all, stay at peace.